2, 1. Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, independence, freedom, and autonomy are great, but the truth about being an adult is that it's not binary. No contact with parents, for whatever reason, is akin to running away from trauma and problems and sends a perverse narrative and message to society that any ounce of discomfort or hassle you feel, then you can just cut out people from your life. When this trend is supported, which is something that the previous speaker didn't fully engage or respond to, it creates a norm that it's fine to cut out people, even the most proximate individuals to you, the very people who brought you into this world, for whatever reason, because you deem it to be necessary. It puts your judgment as to what is good and bad at the sole metric of this particular decision. But we have to understand that it's not just about you, but it's also about a relationship, and it ruins that particular dynamic. This is a value judgment debate about a couple of things. Number one, the trend being harmful and how we do not support it. The simplistic rhetoric coming from the previous speaker is that we can do it, therefore we should do it, but we think that that's not necessarily the case, and even if it were, there are cases where it's valid, like I raised in my POI, and those are fine. We're completely okay with if you were molested or raped or a crime was committed upon you, then no contact is fine there. But they also have to engage and nuance it to a trend which looks like more than the commercialization POI of closing, which is kind of random. It's more on why should this be the narrative of what people should be doing? Because when you have a trend, you send the message on social media like TikTok, Facebook, and within friend groups that when I turn 18, I'm gonna do this. It's goodbye for my parents. The second is that responsible adults really learn to deal with their problems and traumas and not run away from it. No contact is akin to ghosting, and we think that it's ultimately dismissive to certain problems that you might have, which could be fixed. But even if it can't be fixed, it's just kind of mean to the other party, wherein you aren't able to give any amount of decency and closure. We think this particularly is harmful because at best what you do is that you bury the trauma when you try to ghost it, and it leads to maybe even more anxiety, more depression, and at the end of the day, the worst case, just a lot of regret. The third is, this trend just ruins family dynamic and harms society. So within the family, for instance, it's mean to parents, someone who you should have an ounce of gratitude for because they took care of you, they washed your ass as a child, they fed you, they've clothed you. And I understand what the other side might say. Well, I didn't choose to be born. I'm old already. I should be able to do whatever I want. Yeah, that's true, but I'm not saying be their slave or take care of them all the time, but you shouldn't absolutely not come into contact with them just because you're already grown up. How does this harm the family internally? Imagine this, ladies and gentlemen. The intuition here is that at some point in time, these children might eventually become parents themselves. Would you really want, for instance, you're a parent, and then when your kid turns 18 and their debut or birthday, bye-bye mom and pop, you're gone. That harms not just the current family, but also the future family that you might create, wherein your spouse, for instance, and even their children are completely not aware of what's happening. The spouse is unable to know who their in-laws are, and the kid, for instance, young junior, is never gonna be able to know who his grandparents were. It's gonna be a very awkward conversation wherein junior's like, hey dad, I came from you, you're my dad? Who was your dad? Where's grandma and grandpa? Where are they? And you'll be like, oh, they're gone. Are they dead? No, they're gone. So it just makes things really awkward and robs people the chance of really understanding what's happening. The first thing I have to say here is that even if parents are bad, even if they are abusive or malevolent, that's not what this debate's about, right? Because like I already very clearly said, there are some instances wherein they are abusive and you can not have contact with them, but the majority of cases that side government has to contend with, we think, is the real matter. We need to be able to be empathetic that our parents are not perfect, they're also human. But on side government, you send this narrative of just really not being able to listen to their perspective and not validating their shortcomings in order to have an ounce of healthy discourse to be able to understand what the truth really is. The harm here and the impact is that any adolescent will always find a reason to leave, and it fills them with a sense of entitlement and being ungrateful for the situation. No matter how good the parents were, they're always going to be digging because of what they see as a trend in social media or within friend groups. This idea of, yeah, I'm better than my parents, I can do it, goodbye mom and pop, at the point in which I get my birthday, I'll get my money, and then leave. We think this is just a mean way of being able to look at the very people who took care of us, and it's a mean way to be able to condition society. But before that, any POIs? I'll take whoever raises. 3, 2, yeah, go. 1. All right. The comparative is that on our side, people are more empathetic and can become the better person. But let's be clear, right? What do we mean by contact, man? Greeting them on their birthday, asking how they're doing every fortnight, being able to be there for them in times they get sick, introducing them to your spouse, bringing Junior to see grandma and grandpa during the holidays, TLDR, just not being an asshole, because on-side government, they have a burden of defending how this becomes a very, very transactional parent-to-child relationship and child-to-parent relationship. We think we don't have to be all, yay, kumbaya, we're all a big happy family 24/7, 365 days a year, but there should be an ounce of contact to be able to acknowledge them as people and also keep not just your own family, but your future family there together. Again, the intuition pump really is that would you want someone doing that to you? The golden rule, right? So in instances where you don't, you should treat them that way. This leads to better growth because now you're able to have difficult and hard conversations in order to be better. It can lead to you being able to forgive your parents for their shortcomings and acknowledge their situation and even be better than them because you've learned from it when you're able to forgive them and, more importantly, have an ounce of gratification and understanding to be able to forgive yourself as well, even though we never got to choose who our parents are. For all these reasons, very proud to stand on side opposition.
All right.